Assalamu alaikum again. This is Fahad Ali again with a video, and this time the video is all about economics 2281. If you haven't subscribed the channel, do subscribe the channel so that you receive the notification at your earliest. So let's start with the first topic, which is the most difficult topic. I've made a video on price elasticity of demand, and I hope you have watched that video. If you haven't watched, then do watch that video because that's very important from the exam perspective. Price elasticity of supply, what the concept says, how important this concept is from the exam perspective. Are there any MCQs in the examination? Yes or no? We need to know that. And are there any questions in the paper two? Because all the candidates are thinking about one thing, that paper two is the major paper where you will gain marks and where you have a lot of marks. So is it important from the perspective of paper two? Is it important from the perspective of MCQs? And what type of questions are expected? How to answer them? What is price elasticity of supply? And how to apply the formula? Just stay tuned with the video. Watch the whole video in order to get the concept. So let's start. First of all, we have paper 1 and paper 2 as a component for our O-levels and IGCSE examination. So we have MCQs, we have paper 2 content. I know you people might be thinking at this stage that MCQs are less in terms of weightage, so we are not concerned about MCQs. But remember one thing, the MCQs, if you have attempted some papers of economics level 281, you would have assumed, you would have observed this thing over there, that the MCQs are too difficult. If you know the concept very well, you will be able to answer it correctly. If you don't know the answer very well, then you will be able to mark a wrong answer, but it is already a difficult task, because if you're not able to choose the right answer, so it seems that all the 4 options are correct. I know those candidates who are watching this video, they might get this feeling that yes, the teacher knows very well, because I've observed many of the candidates, they tell us this thing. As a teacher, I've observed this thing, that the students say that, sir, according to me, all the 4 options are the correct option, but this does not happen in reality. You have to choose one option over there. So MCQs, paper 1, there are a lot of MCQs. What type of MCQs do we have? We have MCQs in terms of diagrams, in terms of graphs. The examiner will give you a graph and he or she will ask you to calculate the price elasticity of supply. So according to that, there will be 4 options and you need to remember the formula. If you have learned the formula, then it will be easier for you to just apply that. Otherwise, what will happen? You will not be able to just answer that accordingly. First thing. Second thing, there are a lot of questions in paper 2, and the majority of questions are coming in 2 zones, where the question is coming either as a part or it's coming as a last part a lot of times. I'm talking about the majority part. Again, there are exceptions in that. There are questions which have come in the C part of the question and B part of the question, but majority of times when it comes in A or E, the student seems to see the difficulty level has increased. Why? Because the A part is asking for the definition a lot of times, and E part is asking for the usage of price elasticity of supply. What happens? The students don't know the concept, and in the end they can't answer this question, and because of one part they leave this question. The rest of the question seems to be easy according to the candidate, but again they have to leave this option because they don't know how to answer this E part, and that carries the maximum marks in the examination. So let's just start with the price elasticity of supply. Now I want your attention in the class to this video. Just let me give you a practical example over here. If you are going to a shop, let's suppose you are going to a laptop shop and you are asking for something which is good, something which is new in terms of quality in a laptop. So you are asking the shopkeeper. From your perspective, it will be you are the customer. But if I talk about the perspective of the examiner, if I talk about the perspective of the producer, so what happens? The producer is the one who is producing the goods, who is producing the laptops. So if the producer is producing the laptop, so what happens? We have to observe from the perspective of the producer. This is very important at this stage. So if it is the producer, so you have to observe things from the producer perspective when it is price elasticity of supply. So price elasticity of supply, we have to observe things from the perspective of the producer. First thing. Second thing, there's a formula. But before we proceed on to the formula, what does price elasticity of supply says? It says it is the responsiveness. What is it? It is the responsiveness of quantity supplied to a change in price, or due to a change in price. That you could use either of these sentence. Responsiveness of quantity supply to a change in price. What do you mean by this? Let's suppose if the producer is observing that they are now in Pakistan. If you're watching this video and you're in Pakistan, you will be observing this thing, that the dollar rate is increasing day by day. So maybe the dollar has jumped to rupees 290 per dollar. So if I talk about this, so the dollar rate is fluctuating a lot. So if the laptop becomes expensive, if the prices of laptops keep on increasing, so what happens? The producer is intending to sell more. The producer is intending to sell more. Why is intending to sell more? Because when the price of any of the commodity increases, there is a high chance that the profit of the producer keeps on increasing, because the cost remains same majority of times. So when the profit of the producer is increasing, so the profit is signaling the producer in this case that we need to supply this product more into the market in order to earn more profit, because we all know this thing that the private sector is always behind the profit motive. So when we are talking about the profit motive, so we are talking about this thing that the private sector wants more profit. More profit means the producer is willing to sell more. So when you're selling more, so what happens in the end? The price needs to be increased. So when the price increase, producers profit increase, and this gives a motivation to the producer to supply more. So this is what the concept of price elasticity of supply is saying, the responsiveness of quantity supply to a change in price, that how your quantity supply is responding to a change in price. So if I give an example, that's something about what I can say, a practical word example, that if you're talking to someone, that person is giving a positive response. So what will you do? You will keep going on into the conversation. Why? Because you are getting a positive response from the other person. So it means you have to go into the conversation over there. But if the other person is not replying with an intention to keep continuing with the conversation, so what happens? You will just shut down the conversation at that moment. You will just keep yourself out of that, and you will just end the conversation then and there. So this is what the examiner is also telling you in this thing. Price elasticity of supply means responsiveness of quantity supplied to a change in price. Maybe your quantity supplied might respond positively, or your quantity supplied might respond negatively. So you need to just understand these things. What do I mean by positively, or what do I mean by negatively? With the passage of time, I'll just introduce this verse. So now coming down to the formula of price elasticity of supply. What is this? Percentage change. This small triangle is termed as delta in mathematics. You could say that that's percentage change in quantity supplied, QS, divided by percentage change in price. So this is a simple formula. Maybe you might be understanding this thing, sir. This very easy, but there's a problem in that. There are a lot of candidates who are not good in maths. So what happens? They just fail to calculate their percentages, and they fail to get a good answer in the end. So this is a problem. Second problem is that many of the candidates just confuse this thing. They put the price on the top as a numerator, and they put the quantity in the denominator, and again in the end you get a wrong answer. So you need to be well versed with the formula before you proceed with the answer. So there's a formula for calculating the change. I hope you know, you have learned the percentages. P2 minus P1 divided by P1 into 100, which means new price is P2, old price is P1 divided by old price P1 multiplied by 100. This is a formula which is given by mathematics. I have not given this formula. This is given by maths. So this is the proper formula which we use in order to calculate the percentage change in the in the quantity. Q2, again new quantity. Q1 means old quantity divided by old quantity, which is Q1, and we get the answer. So we get, let's suppose we are getting 40% change in the what we can say in quantity supplied. So we'll not write percentage sign. We just write it like this: 40 divided by, let's suppose the denominator was 20. So you will just write it down. Either you write percentage with both of these things, or you remove the percentage in your answer. It's up to you. But it should not happen that you're writing a percentage sign with the numerator, but you're not writing the percentage sign with the denominator. It should not happen. So your answer might be 1 less than 1 or greater than 1. So you need to just understand the concept very well. If your answer is price elasticity of supply is equal to 1, if it is equal to 1, so how you get 1? Let's suppose you're calculating price elasticity of supply. So how do you get 1? You get 1 when the numerator and the denominator remains same. You get an answer of 1 in that situation. So it means the concept of 1 PS is equal to 1 means there is an equal change in quantity supplied and price. Okay, what do I mean by this? When price last of supply is equal to 1, it means there is an equal change in what? Equal change in quantity supplied and what? And price. Okay. And what do we call it in economics? We call it as unitary elastic. Okay, we call it as unitary elastic. I'm trying my level best to give you the concept in a very easy manner, as far as possible from my side. But again, if you people have any questions, you could comment below. Haven't subscribed, do subscribe the channel. It's most important for you nowadays because the examinations are going on. Okay, so coming back to this thing, PS is equal to 1, which means your price elasticity of supply, you calculate it through the formula, you are getting an answer of 1. It means it is unitary elastic. Why do we call it unitary elastic? Because it is the term which we have to use because of economics. What do you mean by unitary elastic? There is an equal change in quantity supplied and price. The numerator, that is quantity supplied change, is 40. The denominator is also 40. So you get an answer of 1. Sir, is it necessary that we will always have the same numerator and denominator in PS unitary elastic? Yes, we'll get the same numerator and the same denominator in that situation. So the answer will become 1. Okay, so PS is equal to 1. So is it necessary that it will always be 40? The numerator will be 40 and the denominator will be 40? No, it's not necessary. There could be any number in that situation, but the numerator and the denominator, both the numbers will be the same in that situation. Let's draw the diagram of unitary elastic. Whenever there is a question of unitary elastic, remember this thing, you have to just label the diagram very well. There are a lot of candidates who make mistakes in the examination in the classes that they don't label the diagram and always write the dollar sign. Okay. So price is your unitary elastic will go like this. We'll start from the origin and there will be an equal change in your quantity supplied and equal change in your price. Let's suppose there was 50 quantity supplied, it increased to 100 and your price was 20, it was increased to 40. So again, you are observing this thing that you are going upwards. You need to just label these. This was A point, this was B point. So I hope I'm just sounding clear on this unitary elastic. Let's talk about the next thing, which is if PES, price elasticity of supply, is less than 1, which is, if I give an example of that, it is 0.9, 0.8, 0.7 and so on. If there is any answer, maybe there is a thing that sometimes you get an answer of 0.1. So again, it's possible, but you need to just remember one thing. The formula should be used wisely, that you are using the formula very correct in a correct manner, and it should not happen that you are just making it upside down, that the numerator has become denominator and the denominator has become numerator. So just remember this thing. So if the price elasticity of supply is coming as 1, less than 1, sorry, so it means it is inelastic supply. Sir, why do we call it as inelastic supply? Because this is the term which has to be used in economics. So these are jargons. I've just observed a lot of times there are students who know everything, but whenever they are writing their answers, they are not using economics terms in their answers, and that's the biggest blunder they are making in their examination. Do not do that. This is an exam of economics. This is not an exam of English that you are using your English to express things to the examiner. Use the words inelastic, elastic, unitary elastic, so that you could impress the examiner. You could tell the examiner that you are an economics student, not an English language student. So inelastic supply, what do? Price elasticity of supply is less than 1, and in that case, what happens? Price elasticity of supply is less than 1. So in that case, it means your quantity supplied is less affected than a change in price. Okay. Let's suppose if I just express that in terms of percentage. So maybe your price has decreased by 40%, but your quantity supplied might be decreased by 10% only. So your change in quantity supplied is less than the change in price. So this is what you have to do. But again, you will apply the formula price elasticity of supply and you will get an answer of less than 1. So once you get an answer of less than 1, you will make this diagram, which will show you how elastic it is. So it will be like this, straight away. So it will be straight. You will observe this thing that there's small change because of a change in price. Let's suppose it was 20. and it increased to 30. But there was only 5 units were supplied earlier. Now 10 units are being supplied. So this was quantity. Labeling is very important. Otherwise, you'll get 0 marks for that. Price over here. Okay. And remember this thing, these arrows need to be made two in the examination, because these suggest that the graph continues, but you have just made it so far at this stage, and you have to write S, which signifies supply in this situation. Okay. So this is how you have to just answer this. Then the last thing which remains is price elasticity of supply, which is greater than 1. So what if the answer of PS when we calculate is greater than 1? Maybe it is 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. Majority of time it doesn't come more than 3 or 4, 5 or 7. But maybe a student is calculating PES and the PES is coming, let's suppose 50. So there is a higher chance that you might not have done it correctly, because I have observed in all the examinations of CI, it is not till 50, it is less than 50 always. Okay. But again, it's not a rule of thumb. Maybe the values are higher, so maybe it can come in the examination. So it's not something which is, you should remember this. Okay. So when the price relative supply is greater than 1, which means that a smaller change in price, the price has changed or by a slight figure. Let's suppose the price has changed only by 10%, but the quantity supplied has increased by 40%, which means there is a major impact on the price elasticity of supply. I know there will be candidates who want me to just give you the definition. So what I suggest to the students in the class, there is a significant change in quantity supplied due to an insignificant change in price. Okay. And again, you just explain your answer by telling the examiner that insignificant change means the change is smaller than the quantity supplied. Okay. This is how you will explain it to the examiner. You need to explain everything. So the price elasticity of supply greater than 1, you got the answer, you got the concept, you have the graph with yourself. Let's see that. And this graph goes like this from here. Okay. You could just see this thing. You are making a small change, and you can see because of a small change, there is a huge change in the quantity. So your quantity has gone from 40 to 80, and your price has gone from 10 to 20 only. Okay. So remember one thing, that whenever you are just making a graph, just signal to the examiner that you are denoting a change, an increase in quantity. Do not leave this to the examiner, that the examiner will get this thing from the graph. Do make these type of arrows which I'm making over here, and make your graph as neat and clean as possible, because again, I don't have any lines in this whiteboard, so I'm just making it very rough in this in order to explain you the concept. So I hope you got this concept very well. The graph will be in front of you, and if you know the diagrams very well, you could just pick it up and you will just get the answer. Then there are other types of price elasticity of supply. Maybe price elasticity of supply, maybe there is a graph which is saying perfectly elastic. Okay. So perfectly elastic supply, how do we make it? We make it like this. So perfectly elastic means you just sell something on a particular price. If I give you an example of that, maybe petrol is the commodity which is being sold at the price which is decided by the government. You cannot change it according to yourself. Maybe it is 200, so you will sell only at 200, and the sign will be infinity. Okay, you will supply infinite at this stage. Infinity means it never ends. You keep on supplying at this stage. Price elasticity of supply, which is perfectly inelastic. This is opposite of perfectly elastic. How do we do that? We do that like this. The graph starts in the vertical form. So just remember this. With the passage of time, when you will practice more, you will just get the concept very well. Okay. So this is how it originates from the x-axis. This is supply. Maybe the quantity is 40 or whatever. So, sir, when price inelastic supply happens, because it happens a lot of time in those products which require a lot of time to be produced. Maybe if I give you an example of wheat, if I give you an example of rice, these are the products which take a lot of time to come back in the market. Price elastic supply means how flexible the supply is for the producer, how easily the producer can increase the supply in the market with an increase in price. This is the simplest thing I have done to explain you. Then there is unitary, I have already explained. Perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic, and I guess these are the all categories which I used to explain, and this is something which is there in the topic. So the last thing which remains, and there has been a question in the past paper earlier, that there was a question that how useful this knowledge of price slash supply is to the producer. And the students were just looking at their faces they looking at each other, and they were just thinking that we did not do this type of question in the class, and now we cannot answer this. So how your PES is affected? How your PES is affected? So it all depends on the nature of product. Okay, if it is a product which is related to nature, let's suppose if it is a product which is perishable, so you cannot store it. So if you cannot store it, then you cannot increase the quantity supply of that. So it means it will remain inelastic. Okay, when you cannot increase the quantity supply, it will remain inelastic. First thing, nature of product. Second thing is that the raw material which is available in the market. If the raw material is not available in the market, so it means it remains as inelastic. Okay. And if the raw material is available in abundance in the market, so it will be elastic. Okay. Last thing, which is very important, the labor factor. I have just observed this in one of the notes, which I have observed, that the labor factor, labor availability. Okay. Labor availability means maybe the workers which are to be used in the production process, they are not available in the area. Maybe there is a low unemployment, area. So when the labor availability is less, so it will be inelastic. When the labor availability is more, it will be elastic. Last thing, how useful it is, if the PES is useful for the producer. Always remember, the producer observes this thing. If the price elastic supply is elastic, because again it all depends on the product. Maybe if I'm just selling a cell phone, okay, and I have all the products, all the factors which are required to increase the production in abundance. So what I'll do, I'll just want my cell phones to be price elastic. A producer always want his product to be price elastic, always, so that he or she can adjust the supply. And when he or she can adjust the supply, his overall revenue increases. He can earn more after selling it in the market. So I hope the concept is very easy. You got the concept. You can solve some questions. If you still have some questions, you can write it down in the comment. You can like this video if you just understood the concept. Share it with your friends and family. Those who require this video, and those who are doing O-levels economics, and like my Facebook page, which is Fahad Ali. And if you haven't subscribed, then it is worth it to supply it over here. To subscribe it over here, not supply. Okay. Supply the subscribe over here. Okay. So goodbye, and we'll meet again in the next video. Take care.